I am live. Hello. Give it a few minutes. Hopefully it's clear. Let's see. Hey guys, welcome, welcome. We have some prompt people, early birds. Hey Blake, how are you? Nice to see you. Thank you for coming back on a Saturday. Let me know, guys, if it's clear for you. For anyone that was here last time, hi Aleem, thank you for joining. Last time it was very blurry, so your feedback is really important. Clear as ice today. Okay, that is good news. And look at you guys coming on time. Thank you. Oh my God, it's my pleasure. But Shasta, thank us after we deliver the value. Hi, Kev. Nice to meet you. All right. So it looks like we have some people from Calgary. I think Vancouver. I'm not sure. It is so nice and hot here in Montreal. Like when I say hot, I think it was like almost 30 degrees yesterday. And I know Aleem, you're in Calgary. I believe it was like rainy in Calgary, rainy and gloomy. So we'll give it a few more minutes, guys. It's only 6:01. Be patient. We're expecting decent crowd tonight. If the people that clicked said that they were coming are actually here. We have a couple minutes. I do have a glass of wine with me today because it's Saturday evening. So if anybody wants to join me for a cocktail, now is a good time to go and grab yours. Eliza from Calgary, hello. All right. So I'm so excited for today's live. I have someone very special to introduce you guys to. Again, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes before I do an official introduction. So thank you guys for your patience. Greetings. It's only 3 p.m. in Van. That's true. That's true. Hey, Robert. Thank you for joining. Yeah, you can catch it later. That's no problem, but stay for as long as you can. There's going to be some juicy stuff here. So feel free, for anybody who's watching, we already have people introducing themselves. Feel free to use this chat feature to ask your questions, to comment on anything that we're saying. We will, if we have time, we'll do a short Q&A at the end of the session. And what's really nice is I'll show you guys a little preview. Aleem, I'll use you as an example. So basically when we get a question, we can highlight it here on the screen. And between Diana and myself, who I'm going to introduce to you guys soon, we will do our best to answer your questions. Oh, look at this. We have someone who attended our speed dating event in Toronto earlier today. That is such wonderful feedback. Thank you. All right, 6:03. Let's get started. So welcome, guys. It is Saturday evening here in Montreal, a little bit earlier for some of our guests and audience today. My name is Kavita Edjwani. I am the owner of Dashing Date, and I am a dating expert and matchmaker. You know, Dashing Date has been in business for 8 years for anybody who is new to watching this. So I have been working with singles for the last 8 years, and actually longer because I was hosting speed dating events for about 5 years prior to that. So it's been a long time that I have been really invested in the dating scene. And we have a really special segment today for you because we have a love coach in the house, like a love coach. Anyways, I'm so excited for you guys to meet her. Her name is Diana Eskander. And why I keep saying love coach, it's like, we don't really come across that many love coaches. And I'm just excited for you because I know her well. And I'm so excited for you guys to just feel her energy, hear her advice, hear what she has to say. She has such amazing I don't even want to call them tips because they're not tips. It's not the surface level stuff. This is the real stuff, the deep stuff. And I've known Diana for a few years now. We've actually hosted some dating workshops in person. So we've hosted them here in Montreal, and they have been, we did one, it was just women, and the second one we did for men and women. And the dating workshops were called The Breakdown. So our goal was really to break down all of the confusion that comes with dating today. And there is a lot of it. So welcome, guys. Thank you. Lillian, hi from Montreal. Awesome. So I'm very excited for you to meet Diana. I think we can get started. She's going to hop on the screen with me in just a second. So without, drum roll, please, without further ado, actually, I'm going to put some music on, light music in the background, set the mood, have a sip of my wine. Okay. Hopefully it's not too loud. You guys let me know. All right, 26 people in the house. Hopefully you guys stay and enjoy, and let's do this. So I think I'm doing this. Here we go.
Hi.
So guys, everybody meet Diana. Maybe I will allow you to do a little intro.
Sure.
Okay.
Do it. Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. Kavita, I'm so excited to see you again. It's been almost 2 years since our last event.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, awesome. So you've done a great job already. My name is Diana. I'm an expert love coach and a speaker. So I work really with women, and the idea is to help you stop overthinking and move into your hearts so you can actually speak your truth and experience love with ease. But for the men watching, I also work with some men too. And it's really what I truly believe is that, like, no matter who you work with, as I work with women, it's kind of like elevating the men too, because you just get to have better experiences as well.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited about. So before all the guys log off, which
sorry about that.
you guys won't. What I'm excited about today is for you guys to really get, like, kind of, this is a little sneak peek into what's happening on the women's side. What are women going through? How is Diana coaching these women in their dating lives, in their relationships? And this is such valuable information because this is the stuff that's confusing. Like, you don't know what the women are going through, what they're thinking, why they do what they do. So this is such a great way to really pick up and understand how things are, how the women are thinking, what they're doing, and how you will be able to better kind of read your relationships, especially those early days when you're starting to meet someone, really get that glimpse into what's happening in the mind of a woman.
Yes.
So I thought we could start with something fun. Before we go a little bit deep, I have, as you guys know who have come before, I always have my notes and questions prepared. But I thought before we go into some of the heavier questions that I prepared for you, I thought we can have a bit of fun first. And this was something, and this is, I'm going to just be so honest, I'm not the best at giving this advice. And we had this question, Diana, when we did the breakdown workshop for women. Women were asking, like, what's the best way to flirt? Like, how should people flirt today? And I have, like, I share my own tips, but I'm so excited to get a second opinion, some suggestions from someone like you, because I could only imagine that you get asked this a lot from your female clients. So how should people flirt?
It's a fun question. Okay, so I really think being flirtatious starts with the way you feel first. So, like, how are you stepping out of the house feeling, right? So whether it's about the way you put yourself together or what you were just doing before, like, what is the energy you're in? Because flirting, it needs to feel, so even if it's not natural to you, you can do it in a way that feels really natural to you if you're in a good space, like if you're actually feeling good. So my favorite approach when I was single was to, like, walk down the street. I loved flirting with my eyes. So it's just like smiling with my eyes, maybe even a little smile. And it's not even with the intention of necessarily having a conversation with someone, but just to kind of welcome what may come, right? To, like, really, to give off that feeling of, like, being approachable and someone that you can talk to or say hello to. So, like, I always say, like, find, like, what is really your strength and use that, right? But it really, really starts with how are you stepping out into the world actually feeling? Right? Because if you're a bit resentful or angry or worried and like you're stressed, let's be honest, that's not a space that's conducive to being flirtatious.
Right. So, okay, let's dive a little bit deeper into that one. So let's say you're feeling good, right?
Yeah.
You really are feeling good. You are walking out. You're in that zone, right? You're like, you know what? I'm ready for love. I'm doing this. I've had a good run. I'm feeling good. What if you just really don't know how? Like, what if you really don't know? And let's go a little bit more specific. So, obviously, walking out into the day, right energy is key. We're going to dive into that a little bit more as well. What about what do you tell women when they're sitting on a date and they really want to come across as somebody who's interested?
Mm.
But so a lot of us have run into that issue with first dates where after the date, it didn't click. You come across maybe standoffish. I really didn't mean to. So what can somebody very like with a lot of awareness do to really show that they're interested?
Well, I mean, one of the simple things you can do, right, is ask questions and actually listen. So, like, what usually gets in the way of connection, because we don't even need to call it flirting, right? But just like being engaged is to notice when and note this just takes practice, noticing when you've slipped into your mind and like come back and like, even if it means like touching the table or grabbing your glass or something to ground you into the present and like even take a few breaths. It doesn't have to be something really obvious, to just come back and actually listen to what the person's saying. So instead of, categorizing them and making judgments and deciding who they are, if you listen, you will know who they are. Right. So it's asking questions, being engaged. I'm a big fan of taking deep breaths when you feel nervous, slowing down your conversation. Like you might notice I just did right now. It's like slowing it down. So yeah, right. It's like, maybe like stop, take a sip, and just be with the person. Right. So it really comes down at the end of the day to, are you someone who's interested in other people?
Yeah.
Like it's not about faking it on a date, because you can only fake it for a few dates and then the person sees how you really show up. Right.
Yeah.
So it really is like practice in your social settings with your friends, with your family, even with yourself. Like we'll talk about that, I'm sure, but like getting acquainted with your own interests and who you are and what you feel, and even asking yourself questions is like a really good way to practice being in that sort of like curious state, which anyone who's around someone who's curious is always like feels so amazing, because you're interested in what they're saying. And then of course you want to balance that with also sharing your experiences and your opinion and your insight. It requires some detachment from the outcome.
Right. That's a good point. I like the reframing of it. You don't have to sit there and think, how do I flirt? But when you're really showering someone, so to speak, with attention, they feel wanted. They feel important. So you don't have to try so hard, which is like one of my favorite things to say. But you have to be genuinely there and interested and express interest and curiosity. So I love that. Thank you for that. So having a little bit of fun, with some first questions. And you guys too, make sure to, if anything comes to mind while we're chatting, jot it down. You can even ask the question, even though we'll answer it a little bit later. So this is a good one because it leads me into my next question, which is about signals. I'm mentioning signals for one specific person. I know it will help more than just one person here today, but I had a client, Stephen, who was in the audience last time, and he had suggested that we do a live about signals in general. I'm hearing a bit of echo. I don't know. Can you hear that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, good. So maybe Stephen will watch it later, but Stephen, this is for you. So I had two questions. So one, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about, but how can women, let me think. So day to day, you're talking about the energy that you put out. Because my question was going to be, how can you as a woman really put that signal out there that you're ready to meet someone, that you want to be approached? So that's one side, which you kind of answered already. And then the other side is, how can men read these signals? So in a time, in a period in time where it's so uncomfortable to approach someone where we don't want to be tapped on the shoulder. Now it's like out of the question to even touch somebody. But as things start to open up again, people just seem to be very uncomfortable being approached. You know, you spark a conversation with someone in a coffee shop, and they don't want to talk to you. So how can men, and again, I know you work with women, but what would you suggest to a man, like knowing the woman's side of it,
Yeah.
what would you suggest to a man to maybe read these signals a little bit better? Or what approach could a man use that you think would identify better with women based on, you know, your experience working with them?
Okay, so it's a good question. Let me do my best to answer it. So I'd like to say first of all that the way I met my husband is that he approached me on a street corner as I was about to get into a cab, and
Okay.
he said, "Oh, you have beautiful eyes." Right? So that was like there was no signal, but there was kind of like, I guess there's something when you are like truly like open, there is something about just like a softness in your face, like you don't look too serious. There's an energy about the woman that sometimes you just have to take a risk, right? Like there was no way for him to really guarantee that I was single, that I was going to respond positively. Like sometimes you really just have to take that leap. But I would notice things like, it's so subtle. It's kind of like when she's really in that like feminine space. And when I mean feminine energy, it's like you can sense there's like a softness. There's like maybe she's smiling as she's walking down the street. Like her eyes are open, her headphones aren't in, right? Like if her headphones are in, like she's either really trying to make herself unavailable or is completely unaware that that's the signal that she's giving. But there are cues like that. And quite honestly, if you say something nice to a woman, you really can't go wrong with that. And then that becomes also our job as ladies, whether you're married, no matter what the situation is to respond positively when someone does approach you. Like a couple of years ago, I was walking down the street and a man said, "Oh, you know, miss, you're so beautiful. I would love to invite you for a coffee." And I really made sure, like I've been married. I think I just had my baby. And I was like, that is so nice. Like I'm married, so I won't be going on the coffee with you. Like you should definitely try again because someone would love to go with you. And so I think as women, we just truly actually have to be less afraid, right? Less afraid and less rigid and just open to connection. And it's kind of hard to say like what those cues are, but for men, like if you notice a woman looking at you, like glancing at you, maybe a smile, like just take a risk, right? And just take a leap of faith and say hi or say like really just point out something that you've noticed about her, right? Whether it's like her face is radiant or whatever it might be, and then say, you know, can I ask you to go for a drink or a coffee? So it's kind of like the more you are not looking at your phone and your eyes are up and open, whether you're a man or a woman, like the easier it is for connection. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, so it's really like looking for those opportunities. We talked about this last week on the live, which is like, and I've shared this information, I think you've shared the same, which is like, there are men and there are opportunities all around us. And it really is, like you said earlier, taking that, taking a moment to set that intention before you leave the house to actually pay attention to what's around you and not be consumed in your phone and consumed in your calendar and your to-do list all day long, and really see what's out there. You said something there. I think I lost it. If it comes back, I'll mention it. Okay, awesome. We have a few questions rolling in. We will get to them. Thank you, guys. So let me see. We talked about, I think a good place to go in from here is energy. So you know what I forgot to do at the beginning of this, is actually mention the title of this live. So let me just think for 1 second. So we talked about, so the live is energy, mindset, and everything dating. So this ties exactly into that, which is tapping into the right dating energy. So I hear you talk about this a lot. One of my favorite quotes is, your energy introduces you before you even speak. We've touched on it a little bit already, but what is that? What does that mean to you? Like if we just had to dive a little bit into tapping into the right dating energy, what does that mean to you?
It's a good one. So this is really, a practice, like a way of actually living your life. So if you're thinking of this, like this is not a crash diet where you just try to get into the right energy so you can just meet someone and then that's it. Because like, even if you do meet someone and you're not in a positive space, like the relationship will dwindle, right? So it's not just about initially attracting someone, it's about keeping a relationship thriving. So think of it as like lifestyle versus diet kind of thing. And like, what are you proactively doing to align your energy with positive, like positive feelings? So positive thoughts and positive feelings, which our feelings are so directly attached to our thoughts. Like if I was to tell you right now to imagine biting into a lemon, or imagine the closest person to you passing, or to think back to your last sexy memory, like your mouth will water, you might cry, you might get turned on. Like we have immediate chemical reactions to our thoughts. So just start noticing how you feel on a day-to-day. Where are you vibing? Right? Like, are you pretty much at a standard of worry and like your thoughts are consumed with problems and you're doubtful and you feel guilty and you feel shame and maybe you're blaming someone for something and there's a bit of anger or resentment? That's not an energy that's conducive to meeting someone who is positive and wants to treat you well and wants to live a good life. Mm-hmm. So just start noticing from day to day, how do you actually feel? Like I'll stop in the middle of whatever I'm doing and actually just take a moment and say, how do I feel right now? Where am I feeling the most energy? And I'll place my hands, let's say here or here, and just ask myself the question, like, what emotion is here? Let me name it. Because I like to imagine it like this. My energy, I like to imagine it as like a sphere around me. And when I am joyful, when I'm taking a walk, when I'm like feeling the sun, when I'm reading a good book, whatever it might be, I can feel like I'll literally take a moment and be like, what would my energy sphere look like right now? I'm like, oh, it's like radiating, it's expansive, it's big. And then there are moments where I'm annoyed with something at home, or I got an email that's pissing me off. And if I look at it in that moment, I'm like, it is actually quite small right now. It's shrunken, it's contracted. So just tap into that more regularly. It's not about, okay, so there are some things you can do right before a date, like, you know, put on some good music, have a drink, do something that makes you feel really, really just like sexy or excited. But we're talking proactive, right? Because that's how you're going to attract people to you, is like when you actually walk down the street looking the way you feel, which is like sunshine and positive and excited about life.
Yeah, this is amazing, guys. I hope you are like absorbing and like just really like consuming this knowledge. It's such a good point. I love the visual aspect that comes with it. It's something you could really picture. So I love that. Thank you. More questions coming in. I'm excited. So that's a great one. Yeah, really tapping into the right dating energy, guys. So that is great. Next question for you, Diana. You actually mentioned this right when we started, is how do you suggest that singles emphasize, you know, let's say someone is very clear on, actually, maybe they're not clear on it. So how would you suggest that how should they highlight and emphasize, you know, the great things that they have going for them? And to stop focusing on their shortcomings. Like, do you have any tips that somebody can use to like maybe identify those and then really bring them to the surface?
Yeah. So you'll see with everything I pretty much respond to, I don't really believe in quick fixes. So it's always going to come down to your your daily choices and the way you're showing up on a daily and the practices that you're putting in place for yourself, right? So we've all heard of like gratitude practice. So it's something that you can do for yourself, right? Is really actually like noticing, like, words are my love language. It's my top love language is words of affirmation. So if you want to ever like please me, you just say nice things and I take it all in. I love it so much. So that's something that I know I can do for myself, is like pour nice words onto myself and positively affirm the things I actually believe that I am doing well, or that look great about me, or the way I make people feel, or whatever it might be, is actually taking time to notice what is amazing about me, what is amazing about my life, and be so okay with being that and buying into it, because it doesn't make you arrogant, right? It makes you confident and at ease. And I asked my husband the other day, I said, when we were first dating, you used to always say to me, "You're such a woman." I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, "You were just so confident and comfortable." Right. And that's taken a lot of practice. That is not how I've always been. And it's not how I always am either. Right. But it takes this like really intentional practice of, so whether it's writing it out or even feeling those things about yourself, like sitting, like I have my rituals every day that really are ways that I connect with myself. So there's meditating. For me, it's not for everybody, but it is for me. I absolutely love it. I've been doing it for 7 years. It's a practice.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of journaling about like my feelings and what I actually feel and what I desire and my vision and why I can actually have that in my life. Right. So like I do a lot of boosting of myself. And that's why I'm able to show up and do great things. And it's also why people feel good around me. And I don't need to pretend to love aspects of myself on a date. And I also don't need to pretend that there are things that I'm not comfortable with either. Right. So I really don't believe in putting on a mask.
Okay.
So it really starts with, what are your daily practices to make yourself feel good and to really believe that you are good and that you have something of value to offer. And then when you're on a date, it's going to come out so naturally. So if you're a really good listener, for example, you don't have to say to someone, "I'm a great listener." You just be a good listener, right? And they feel that. Or if one of your, strong suits is like really being present with a conversation and like picking out the most interesting pieces, you just do that, right? And so it is a practice of, where are you focused in your life, on what isn't working or what is? And then your conversation is going to very naturally highlight that you're a positive person.
Right. So I love this point, because the most important thing is that the first thing is to notice it yourself. How can you show up and show it and put it out there if it's something that you've been like pushing down, and you've even like forgotten how well you do this or how well you do that, or you're a great cook, for example, and it's just something that's become so routine to you, you've forgotten to recognize how great of a cook you actually are. So sitting down and actually writing these things out to boost your confidence and make it a practice is
I have one solid tip.
Yeah.
Can I share? This is actually from my mentor that just reminded me now. Writing out like 20 reasons I'm awesome. Various, it could be like all kinds of ways that you're amazing, but like having that somewhere, maybe next to your bedside. Like if you're single, maybe no one's there in the bed, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the list is there, and having it there is just like a reminder of like, don't forget this about yourself. Don't just focus on the fact that you gained a few extra pounds, or that you didn't do so well at that meeting the other day, or you didn't get the raise you wanted, or you've been single for X amount of years. What about you do you feel really good? Put it on paper and allow it to seep in daily.
And it's going to make it so much easier. Recently I talked to you guys about not forget. You don't have to date online all the time. Like when you're not in the right headspace, when you're not feeling good, you're not going to make the most of it anyway. So this is such a great way to be in that right headspace more often, and you could show up more often in like your whatever your dating endeavors are, like however you're going about it, whatever avenues that you're trying to meet someone, and this will allow you to really show up in those places as your best self, in the right headspace with the right energy. So that was great. Thank you for sharing that, and that little the extra tip at the end. All right, reading these. I wanted to show you, what did someone say here? There was someone, oh yeah, this is what we had. Taking it all in, which I love. So thank you for sharing. Okay, where are we? Hope this is good, guys. Yes. Okay, this is a good one. So this, I guess it kind of goes hand in hand, but I imagine that even when we try our best, and the other part of it is, also when something becomes a practice and it becomes routine, at the same time, it may not be as effective all the time. Like, it is building that solid foundation, and that's key. But my next question is, like, what should someone do? And I see a lot of our clients running into this when you have kind of hit that wall. How can we not go down that like rabbit hole of like self-doubt, worry, I'm never going to meet someone? It can often happen when you've been on maybe like, now it's been like a string of bad dates, or maybe not bad dates, you've liked 5, 6 people and it's just like, I'm not interested. Friend zone, I'm not interested. What do you tell your clients, or what do you suggest to get out of that rut, or to not fall into that rut? Any there?
So it's kind of echoing, well, one of the points is echoing what you just said. If you are in a bad headspace, don't go online. Don't go on these dates, because like, again, if we're talking about your energy and it's like at a low frequency at that point when you're feeling really frustrated, it's a really low frequency energy. You are only going to attract more experiences that make you frustrated. And your lens at this point is like, you have no tolerance for bullshit, and not in a good way, not in an empowered way, in like a deficit way. Right? So all you're going to do is create more momentum in the direction you don't want to go in. So take a break. Take a breather. Enjoy your life. Like don't forget all these dating avenues, whatever dating avenues you're using, amazing. They're portions of your life. They cannot be even a primary focus. They are a slice of the pie. And there's other slices that you need to indulge in too, like your friends or your hobbies, or your vocation, or your health, your personal development. So make sure you still keep that spotlight focused on you and building yourself up, because it's also about what are you bringing to a partnership too, right? So you're building like, none of this is a waste. You just get to be a better partner, which also means your standards and expectations rise with you, right? So take a break if you're feeling frustrated, and also notice what is in the way. Is it a belief system? Is it like something that you're accepting that you no longer need to accept? And if you're having a hard time identifying that, write it out. Speak with like a trusted friend who actually has a solid perspective. Maybe seek the advice of a coach or an expert in some way. Identify what is the obstacle, and get really honest with yourself about how it's not helpful. And as you've really dug into like really like how just detrimental this is, then you start to shift the perspective into, how else can I see this? How else can I approach this in a way that actually helps me and helps me move in the direction of what I want? Right? So the really key piece to take away from this is, don't spin your wheels in the negative. Acknowledge that you're there, feel it, give it space, and then redirect. Just don't go down the highway, like the negative highway.
The negative highway. This is good, because I think this brings me like right into my next question. So, I mean, you covered a little bit again. Like, this is actually flowing very well, because as of like even the way I prep my questions, there's been like a little tidbits of my next question in the last one. So how can someone identify what's holding them back? So you shared a few tips. You could speak to an expert, you could speak to a coach, you can speak to a friend. So my exact question is, how can someone identify what's holding them back from enjoying their dating life, enjoying their dating experiences? And what have you seen are the most common, what's the most common thing you've seen in this area that have been holding people back from enjoying dating?
Okay, so the most common thing that I've seen is like a deep-rooted belief of like not actually being worthy of someone amazing, right? Like, and I've seen this, every single person I've worked with has had a deep-rooted belief that they're not worthy, that they're not enough. So everything from that point, and I actually had drawn this out the other day. I'm always drawing things. Okay, can I pull out a piece of paper and draw this for you? Okay.
Let's do it. We have an artiste / life coach with us.
Hopefully you guys can follow this, because it is, well, I know that you can follow this, but it's one of those things that's like, once you get it and like you really start exploring this, it's powerful. Okay, so I'm just going to take me 2 seconds. Well, maybe 30.
I'm going to take a little scan. I hope you guys are enjoying. Again, prep your questions. We will actually, how are we on time? 35 minutes, guys. We are at 35 minutes.
Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. So if you have this belief that you are not worthy, right? That you're not enough, or that or all men cheat, or all women are difficult, or whatever your belief system really is, it has you firing off like a ton of thoughts that are in direct relation to that. Those thoughts, like we just talked about earlier, which way do I put my pen? This way. Cause immediate feelings in your body. So let's just say, for example, that you are thinking like, this is never going to work out. It never does, right? So you're going into a date perhaps feeling anxious and already decided that like it's doomed for failure. And so the way that you are responding to questions or asking questions, or like the feeling that's behind the action is one of like anxiety and doubt, right? So then like the outcome is like the person feels uncomfortable around you. They don't really know like why you're in that space. And then it feeds back into the loop, into the belief system. So when I go deep with clients in this, and like we really get clear, like this is what your pattern is. Your pattern is all rooted in a belief system that has you thinking certain thoughts, which creates feelings, which has you act in specific ways, has you send anxious text messages and phone calls, which creates an outcome where the person like isn't responding the way you want them to. And it feeds back into your initial belief that like, it's not going to work. Like this is literally what a pattern is. And you get really, really stuck inside of this unless you work your way backwards and understand, okay, what is the pattern here? Name the pattern. When did it get here? Why is it here? What is actually serving me about this pattern? You could say like, I stay in this pattern so that I don't actually have to meet someone, because then they might get to know the real me. What's the fear driving the bus? Right? Like if you can get down to identifying the fear, you will see how that fear has actually been the one in control of your whole dating experience. Does that make sense?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm having breakthroughs here.
Yeah, it's massive.
Are you, I hope you guys are like really taking this in. I've said this a couple times. This might be a question that you really can't answer. And for you guys, like you're going to have to work with Diana if you want to.
It's a big one to dig into. For sure.
Big one. Yeah. So that's I don't know if my next question really applies.
Yeah.
What is your number one tip? And again, I don't even like using the word tip or trick or tool when I'm speaking to you, because it's just not how you operate. And that's why, for anyone that joined not too long ago, that's why I love speaking to you. That's why I love reading what you put out there, because it's never just hey, try this or do this. Like it's always really comes back down to you and what's been going on and your history and your limited beliefs. So so I don't like using the word tip. So I'm not sure.
Like I know how to answer it though.
There we go.
So you're right.
A bad dating habit or pattern.
Yeah. So you're right, because like if I tell you to say this one thing, you can't, even if it works in the moment, you can't sustain that because it's not actually founded in anything different. There's nothing wrong with you. There's just a belief system that isn't serving you. So if you want to break out of a pattern, you need to really understand what belief is at play. So that's basically the same answer I gave earlier. What belief is at play? And the way that you can start to really even understand that is like I have a whole framework that I work with clients to understand, like, what are your triggers? So some of the things that trigger you when you're dating someone will reveal your fears always, right? So start by noticing what are some of the things that trigger you and work your way backwards. It requires like almost a daily. And when I say daily, I don't mean be strict with yourself, right? Like I remember listening, I don't, if anyone's read Conversations with God, I listened to an interview with the author, And they said, did you meditate every day? He's like, yeah, I did every day except for the days that I didn't. And I just love that answer, because that's how I feel about it too. It's totally every day. And then there are days where I don't. But what's really important is some kind of practice where you are getting in touch with what is actually the F up, okay? Mm-hmm. How do you feel? How are those feelings having you, what is it holding you back from, right? Even in the context of bigger dreams, right? Like, how are the fears really at play? Get in touch. When people want to know about how do I communicate better in relationship or communicate my needs, the more you can identify your feelings and name them and feel them, the more you develop what I like to call your own vulnerability language. And it's a very authentic language to you, right? Where then you're just going to, that is how you speak your truth to someone, this is how I feel. I'm not saying I'm entirely right. I'm not saying I'm seeing the whole picture, but when this happens, I feel this way, right? And so, but it really requires like getting intimate with the feelings, especially the feelings that don't feel so good.
Mm-hmm. So you guys watching are probably seeing a common thread among a lot of what Diana talks about, and I really hope it's resonating with you. What I will say about what you're saying, Diana, is like there is no way around what she's telling you. Mm-hmm. I share a lot of tips with you guys, and ultimately, if these things aren't working, it comes back to all of this stuff. So this is really where it's at. And I really encourage you guys to take a solid look or some reflection after we finish this up. We'll get through another couple of questions. If we had to take it a little bit more surface level, when you talk about speaking your truth, like when you're in a really new relationship, right? Like barely anything. You've been on 2 dates. You start to feel these things coming up. Let's take it a little bit further. You've been on 3 dates, 4 dates, and you're starting to feel that like, you want to text too much. You're making yourself too available. Like there's so many common things that we hear a lot with women.
Yeah.
So how can you where's that balance between speaking your truth in the early days of a relationship or a potential budding relationship? It can be difficult to be like, hey, you didn't text me. I feel this way because you didn't text me. And, this guy would probably be like, let's take a step back. Like we've been on 1 date, 2 dates.
Right.
So, do you have any advice in that? Like how should someone navigate those early days and stay true to themselves, also get the results that they want?
So like, if you don't hear back from someone, it's been 1 date and they don't respond fast enough, like that's an anxious attachment style, right? So the ultimate goal when I work with anyone is to move them into a secure attachment, because then those are not even things that you need to communicate, because you know how to carry your own emotions, right? Like at the end of the day, like you're getting in touch with that person to make you feel a certain way because you can't handle the way you're feeling right now. So you need them to make it better. So I just want to really preface that, because again, like it's really hard to put like a Band-Aid on that, because it isn't up to the other person to make you okay. That being said, some in terms of like strategies of how to actually say things. Okay, let me take it one step back and then I'll get to that. So noticing that like these are things you have to learn to carry for yourself. And so actually I like to say like when we're talking about boundaries, I don't even mean a boundary between you and the other person. I mean a boundary around your own self-sabotaging behavior, right? So if you check your phone too often, you need to put your phone away until lunchtime, right? Or something like that. Like actually create some boundaries for yourself to help you from self-sabotaging, from checking his Facebook profile and going all the way back to God knows where, right? Like you need to check yourself. Like you really, really do. So moving into secure attachment, putting some boundaries around that. And again, these are things that require work. Okay. So like there's no like immediate fix there. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to actually saying like something disappointed you, I love to avoid using the word you, like as much as possible. when I didn't hear back, like I completely left out the word you, when I didn't hear for a week, it made me feel this way. And just stand in it because it's true. And saying it is better than blowing up their phone or even on the other side of that, because when we're afraid, we either go in too much and like, I need you to help me, or we protest and it's the cold shoulder and we don't respond right away and we act too cool. Either way is a response of fear. So while you are moving into the process of becoming more secure, just be honest. So name the thing that happened without saying you didn't write me back. Just when I didn't hear back, I felt this way. Period. I'm speaking especially to the woman in this case, okay? And when I say the woman, because I mean, and I shouldn't even say woman, the one who's in the more feminine energy of the relationship, okay? Is like, the feminine energy doesn't need to problem solve. So you can really just state the thing, how it's making you feel, and let that other person respond with whatever is on their side. And don't assume, like, know that when you are freaking out, you have a very narrow view. Like it's super focused on your insecurity and the problem. It's not to say, like, there are some basic rules of engagement and ways of etiquette and like common decency. And of course, like you deserve that. But you know the difference, or you learn the difference of when it's simply your past baggage, right? Like someone didn't respond to you quick enough, which meant he was actually seeing someone else. And so you need to like ensure that that's not what's happening here. One more thing. Hopefully you guys are following this. Before you send any message or say anything about how you feel, check your energy. Where is it at? Is your heart racing? Are you feeling super anxious and like mad and frustrated and like you almost can't see straight? It's not the time to send that message. It's not the time. The energy, the feeling behind the action, wait, I always get confused when the feeling behind the action is everything. So if you only focus on those two things, what is the feeling that I am approaching this date with? What is the feeling that I'm approaching this text message with? That will start to already shift so much for you. And when it's not in a good place, take a breath. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that was excellent. That was so nice. Again, I've said this like 3-4 times, but I hope you guys are taking this in, and I hope you guys do take the time to think back and even like identify, like, have you been doing any of these things, and like maybe identifying where you maybe had the wrong approach and how you could correct that next time with some of these practices. Let's switch.
Practices, right? Because it's like making dinner for someone because you're excited and you want to have fun versus making dinner because you want to show them that you're like an amazing partner.
Right.
Same action, different energy and intention.
Okay, good. I think what's so nice about this conversation is like there was so much covered that I didn't even have to ask all my questions because there's just so much overlap, which really speaks to the consistency in your work and what you do. So I hope that you guys can see the difference in, what it means to be a love coach. Like it just goes so deep as love does. So I'm just gonna see, do you suggest? Okay, let's keep this one. I don't think it's going to be a short answer. So
I'm not the best at it.
I'm just thinking, like, would it be better to get to Q&A?
I can keep it short.
Okay, so the question is, okay, fine. The question is, if a woman really likes a guy, like she really, really likes him, crushing, like the girl is crushing on the guy, and she's just not getting, she's being calm, she's being patient, but she's really not getting like what she wants out of the relationship. How do you guide a woman to what does it mean to you to like, okay, enough is enough, like cut the cord? Like how long should someone stay when they are being patient, they are trying, they've done things right and they're just not seeing really what they want. Like, do you have any advice?
Yeah.
How long should she wait before ending things? What steps do you suggest when there's that weird kind of in limbo phase?
Yeah. I experienced that with my husband. There was like no clarity about what things were. And then I just had to have the conversation and like be really honest. And we have this, so I don't have a time frame. And I'll never give a time frame because everybody's so different. And I was very sure that the person I was seeing, which is Jack, was like a solid human with excellent character. So there was nothing for me to be afraid of, but there came a time where I was like, oh, I'm feeling this deep desire to be really honest about how much I care about him and what I would love to see for us. And then, so you have that conversation in full honesty, but you have to be detached. So I would have been devastated if he didn't feel the same, but I also just have to be okay with it, right? So it's like standing in the truth of, we've been spending months together. And for me to continue on with this, knowing like ultimately what I want for my life is like a committed partnership, I need to be honest with you about how I feel and what I would love to see. Where are you at? And you just got to be honest. But the reason that conversation is received well is because I've peeled back the layers. I have taken off the heavy emotion and I've just come with my truth. With or without you, this is what I want for my life.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad I asked that question. I hope, for men and women,
totally.
right now, that is such a great way to say it. There are no time frames. There's no like black and white answer to something like that. So I think that was answered beautifully. Okay, guys. So we've been chatting for 50, almost 50 minutes. Let me do a quick scan of these questions. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm probably not going to get to them all. What I am going to choose are questions that I think will ideally serve everybody watching right now. So let me see here. Okay, let's see. Okay, sorry guys. Question for Diana. We have one here at the bottom. Blake. What I do for a living has made me rather too guarded. Any tips, tools, practices for allowing oneself to open up emotionally, making oneself emotionally vulnerable? That is a lovely question. I think it will resonate and serve our audience here. So, Diana, take it away.
Yeah, well, I think first of all is whatever it is that you do for a living, it doesn't define you. And so really, like, I know when we love what we do or we're passionate with what we do, it can really become a big part of like who we define ourselves as a person, but there are so many other aspects of you. So like make sure you're also leaning into those and giving energy to the other parts, because then that's going to kind of help balance it. Like even when you talk about your life and what you spend your days doing, you can mention some other things that you're doing as well. So making sure there's balance in your life. It doesn't mean equal work to equal play, but like not making work feel like it defines you too much, right? Which I understand because I love what I do, and I can really struggle with that myself. And then for allowing oneself to open up emotionally, so I'm going to encourage you to have a practice with yourself where, whether it's once a week or once a day, you are getting in touch with your emotions, right? And like you're practicing even identifying how you feel, and then maybe even with friends or some family members, just starting to practice like some vulnerability language. Talk about, like, you don't have to talk about how you feel about someone. Say how you felt nervous for this thing coming up at work, or how you felt inspired by this thing that you saw, or how this thing made you curious. Like use feeling words in other ways that feel a little bit lighter and a little bit easier.
Blake, I hope that was helpful to you and other people here still watching. We have this question here. I tend to focus on dates about I tend to focus about the person's past, which isn't always good. What topics should you be covering on a first date? It's a little more.
I feel like that's more your, yeah.
I actually really like to. I think the best thing is to try your best to, without making it seem artificial or not really authentic is trying to find something that you have in common. What are the things that brought you onto that date in the first place? It's unless it's been a complete blind date, and usually even with a blind date, which I mean, most people are not going on blind dates, but usually you have information about the person before you're going on a date with them. So think about, and this, actually ties really nicely into the very first thing that we were talking about, Diana, which is being really present, being genuinely curious. So going on to your date a little bit prepared. And by prepared, it just means being present in your previous conversation. So what did this man or woman, what have they already shared with you? Did they mention that they took their dog for a walk today? Did they mention something about their work, a project that they were working on, how they had a really long day, a family member that they were visiting, a trip that they took? Really remembering what this person has shared with you. And then you can just talk about those things. Hey, and it's so nice. And this goes back to the flirting thing. It's so nice when somebody remembers, like if somebody brings something up to me that I said in passing. This is a really like random funny story, but on the first birthday that I shared with my current boyfriend, this was like 8 years ago, he'd gotten me all these little gifts, which was so sweet. But one of the gifts were all of my favorite cans of tuna. It was just, I opened this bag and I was like we had just started dating. I'm like, how did you even know I like this tuna? And it was because when we were grocery shopping one day, I mentioned, I'm like, oh my God, my favorite tuna is on sale. And he picked up on that. And I was just so, I mean, nobody wants tuna for their birthday, but I was like floored. It was so sweet. So it's just a small example of really just paying attention, being curious about the person. What is this person about? And I'm going to say it again. I think this is going to become my tagline, but it's like, you guys, you don't have to try so hard. You don't have to overthink. Just, like really use what you already have. Like, so you know stuff about the person before you're meeting them. And I think that's what you could just dive deeper into when you're on a date. So that's what I would say for that. Okay, maybe we'll grab one more. This I'm just going to show because guys should just stop doing this. So I think we'll just, yeah. We were talking about, approach, say something nice to someone. There is that balance between, I think it speaks to what you were saying too. There's having an open energy and being willing to receive. On the flip side, as a man, when you're giving a compliment and you want to compliment a woman, also check your energy, right? And make sure that it's coming from the right place and that it's not a line and that it is genuine and that it is really from you. That's why I never like to give people pickup lines. I'm like, not everything works for every person. So it really needs to come from you. Look at the woman. What do you actually like about her? You can tell every woman you like her eyes. You could tell, do you like her eyes? Do you like the dress that she's wearing? And like, be genuine about it. Look at someone before you actually come up with the compliment. So anyways, this is why that's what I would say to that.
Yeah.
This is a little bit, I guess we're going to see what's going to happen with this. Women to get to know people that are afraid. I mean, this is a whole new topic. I could take a stab at this. I don't know if you...
Yeah, we go for it. I might have a couple things to say, but I'm curious what you have to say.
So I actually covered a lot of this in last week's live. We talked about dating after quarantine. Like, what do we do? And I was just saying, like, there's going to be the people that are really afraid, and there's going to be the people that are more anxious, but there's also going to be the people that they can't wait to meet someone and that they are dying to get out. And there's always going to be two sides to it. And I was like, focus on the people that really do want to date and are ready to put themselves out there. And I think there's going to be more opportunities. If you want to see those opportunities, they are absolutely going to be there. And there may be even more than we were seeing before because we've all been cooped up at home. There's been less dates happening. So I think there's a massive opportunity to actually meet women that are going to be more willing to go on dates than even before. So that's that's kind of what I covered in this area. And let's see what Diana has to say.
I mean, I think that's a great answer. I mean, obviously, we can understand why she has some hesitation around it. Like if we're talking about meeting right now. So whether it's something like, I'm sure this is pretty basic, but like a video conversation so that it's one step further. Let's say if you've been messaging, if you get on a phone call, then it's a video. So it's still that same natural progression of like when you're dating and you open one page after the next and you get a little more intimate. And then maybe it is a face-to-face date from a distance, like whether it's like one woman that was in my group, her and this guy, they did dinner at two different ends of the driveway and just sat down with their plates and had a conversation, which is super, super sweet. But like, just allow it to build. And if you feel like this person really just wants to keep you in a box of just messaging you and not even really willing to get on like a camera, then, that person's not serious about actually meeting someone for a relationship.
Yeah. Good point. And I'd also said last week, the videos on our Facebook page is be the one that's really suggesting the smart dates. So do the picnic on a blanket, like make it like cater to not just someone's anxiety about what's going on, but just like to actually be smart about what's happening right now. And if you want to be going on more dates, it probably will be to your advantage to be the one that's suggesting, COVID smart dates, whatever we want to call it.
It's a good time of year for that too, right? Because the weather allows for like outdoor social distance.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay, I think that's going to be it. We're just hour mark. So thank you. This was so nice. It's actually been about almost 2 years to the date that we did our last workshop. So when I realized that, I was saying like, this is such a nice way to have a little virtual reunion.
I love it.
Where can people, how do I hide this? 1 second. Here we go. So let people know where they can find you and where they follow you and how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you want to get in touch, you can send me an email, hello@dianaeskander.com. That's also my website, dianaeskander.com. I share a lot on Instagram, askdiana_. Personal Facebook. You can just click my name on here and add me to Facebook. You'll see a lot of the content that I share as well.
Amazing. So I'll let you guys know that Diana shares such valuable content. Like just like some of the things you said, like I have to read, and their long posts are just full of value, and you can't really not pay attention because it's there. Like the goodness is really, really there. So you guys can take a little screenshot of her name right here. It sounds like right from your website, they will be guided to everywhere else that they need, that they'll be able to find you. So thank you guys. And thank you, Diana. This was so nice.
So nice.
Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Hopefully everyone is enjoying having as good weather as we're having here in Montreal. And enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. This video will be available if you want to come back and, follow up, take notes, check anything, and maybe we'll do a round 2 eventually. So thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Pleasure.
Very, very nice to have you here. I appreciate your time. Bye guys.